Hey folks, episode something, I don't know. We're a little ways in and I've had to mix up a couple episodes. Um, Today I got another plant from a nursery. I know. It's a plant I really like, so I'm glad I got it. Needs a little bit of a trim up, and I cheated a little bit on this one. I did actually, hi Nina, I did actually check it out a little bit at the nursery, combed out some of the roots before I bought it. They said I could. They weren't worried about it, I guess. They should have been. Hi. So I'm going to pop this one up into some bonsai soil. Its buds are not popping. This is not a tree I worry about that with, but I showed a little sneak preview of this in a short earlier on the 2nd of March. So if you're curious which tree I'm talking about, or which short I'm talking about, which preview, you can go back and look at that. You're not really missing anything. I just spun it around once. But let's dive in. I've got it right here. But first, I'm going to make sure I've got everything set. Oop, as far as filming. Not gonna be a whole lot to look at if I don't do it well. So this is the tree. Probably too high right now. That's okay. It's a really easy dump out. First I'll dump it out. And we'll get back at this with a little bit less height. Like I said, I cheated a little bit. Ooh, my. And I don't think you can even see it. And that might be too close. We'll see, right? We'll see. It was not pot bound, which is good. Just emptying out the rest of the dirt in the bin here. It was not pot bound, but still, I think it needs a smaller container. And I mean, most of this is just on top now, so that'll help a little bit with the height. I unburied it to take a look at the base of this tree, the roots, also to look and see what's going on with these branches, because I knew there were branches, or I hope there were branches off of this tree, but I wasn't sure just how far they went. So, although it looks like I've done a lot, this isn't that much, in honesty. Down there. Already I've wasted so much of your time, right? All right. That might be a little easier to see. So yeah, these are great roots. Hardy kiwi is a vine. That's what this is. Prolific, I think. I'm not sure if prolific is the right word, but this is a hardy red kiwi. I think this one's male. But it doesn't matter. I didn't get it so that it can be a fruiting tree. I've already got one of those. Let's see. Cranberry red fruit and red flesh. It's unique. Something. Pollinator required. I assume it's male. It doesn't really matter. I can't pronounce that scientific name either, so that's kind of where we're at. All right. Oh, I am going to dive right in on this. I got myself a little beverage to make sure that I'm thoroughly hydrated, you know. One of the oldest and one of the best beverages on this planet is a Negroni. Sometimes I make a, I guess this is just a variation of the Negroni. I can't remember what it's called. I use chartreuse instead of, what's it called? Campari. This one I made with Empress 1908 gin. It's that butterfly pea flower tea indigo gin, so it's a nice one. But yeah, this one appears already to have like a really nice root spread. I'm using the skewer to loosen things up because I am running the risk, if I do any kind of big tears in the roots here, are really damaging this tree since I'm already repotting it kind of out of time. We aren't getting any severe weather. It won't freeze on my plant balcony for the rest of this season, so it's a little early, but this one will make it. Again, they're very hardy. Ooh. Hopefully my mic's working. I'd be really upset if my mic was turned off and I had to voice over this one too. I had one I had to voice over couple episodes ago, and it may not have even aired yet because I'm still trying to figure out how to do all this stuff. But it was very frustrating to record a whole episode. Pied up some Yamadori, showed off some rocks, and then had zero audio whatsoever. So I'm really hoping this one has audio. Some of these longer roots like this will get cut off. Not terribly worried about that. I think my Nabari is right here. I don't know if you can see already, but there is a nice root spread. It just kind of disguised by distance and, well, all the roots that are popping up around it. All the same, this one should be a relatively easy repot. These vines really tend to have good can't forget hydration, right? Tend to really like sensible roots. So I'm hoping it's super radial like it appeared originally. I'm hoping I can get into a better proportioned pot. I don't know if it'll go right into a bonsai training pot, maybe just a smaller nursery stock container. But I would like to work on getting these roots straightened out a little bit more and start training it for a little less height because it is a pretty tall creature right now. Yeah, you can probably already tell just from watching me, it's coming apart pretty easy. It's just a lot of roots, which is good. Most of them are wrapping up and around, so that makes me confident that I can trim some off. Just finding which ones I can trim off. I will say, if I haven't already done so, Matt at Bobcat Bonsai, I will definitely be ordering a root hook from you. I tried to use a hose pick that I had as a root hook, and it worked pretty nice. It's pretty efficient. That's what I used when I was out on the road. It may not be the best thing. It's a little bit sharper than it probably needs to be. So rather than continuing to use that and potentially damaging roots that don't need to be damaged, I'll probably order one of your root picks pretty soon. Maybe even grab one if you got one that somebody didn't want. I'm not very particular. I'll just take whatever you got the most of, kind of thing. But it looks like a really well-made tool. And I think there's some special community when someone like you wants to go in. Oh yeah, he does not pay me to say this. I think it's something really special though when someone like you, Matt, you start a Bobcat Bonsai, you start making a product for the community, especially with the way you've got it priced. I know you're not selling it just to make money off of these. That's not your goal. Your goal is to make a really good product and share it with other people. And I think that's really special. There's a lot of really special people in this community, which mine has been growing, I would say, steadily. Not quickly yet. I don't think my channel is where it needs to be to support too fast of growth, but I know the community has been fantastic. There's so many amazing people. I couldn't even begin to list them all. I think I've been focused mostly on some of the people who have interacted with me, people I can remember their names, people I'd watched before. Ooh, no, that's okay. That was a long route anyways. Didn't mean to break that off. I was trying to untangle it. But the whole community is great. Every single day there's a new creator that I'm finding or is finding me, and they're just so nice to talk to, just so nice to, interact with, I should say, not talk to, comment and all that stuff. Just so nice to watch their channel and see their interpretation of the art of bonsai. And, a lot of them are really cool, really down to earth. There's people from, I'm not sure where exactly they're from, but I do have to use Google Translate to kind of interact better with them. And forgive me to all those people who, comment in your language you're comfortable in, and I do not reply in the same. I try to remember to reply, even if I'm using a translator, to make an effort to speak your language. As far as I'm concerned, when you're on my channel, you're a guest, and I try to make my guests feel good. If someone comes to my house and they're a guest and they speak Spanish, I'm going to do my best to try to communicate with them in a way that they're comfortable with, because you don't want your guests to be uncomfortable. So to all you, I think people from the tropics, I can't remember where exactly. I had a translator pulled up on my my laptop. Thank you for finding me. So many of you have such impressive work, so I'm really flattered when you folks follow me. A lot of these channels have really impressive fan base too. I'm looking at like, oh my gosh, they have how many thousand followers? And they're active. They talk to people. They reach out. They say nice things. One of them's just like, hey, it's nice to meet you. You know, I was so happy about that. It's nice to hear that. You know, it is something to say, yeah, but I don't think anybody in the bonsai community is disingenuous. I think everyone's pretty genuine. Everyone really wants to be nice, wants to help. Even people who seem kind of, too concerned with their own business. Like I'm sure people probably think I'm a little too concerned with my own business. Even those folks are like super, super nice. Like you ask them for help and they help. You ask them for advice, they give advice. A really unique and positive online community in the metaverse and, of course, the internet with the bonsai people here. All right. So I know I'm just gabbing and going at this. It's been about 10 minutes now of me just gabbing and going at the roots. Uh, I am making good progress. It may not be visible to everyone, but I think what I need to do is all of the mulch in here kind of wants to stay tangled. So you can see I'm untangling the roots, but just so much of this mulch that's interwoven, stuck together. I don't want to lose any of my trunk. If there's some good trunk under this, because this may not be the only swell I've got. It may be that there's something better under here. I don't want to lose that if that's the case. So pretty soon here, I'll be able to see the trunk below this point, or the roots below this point, if it's roots, and make the decision as to whether or not to keep most of this root ball. I'm repotting this before I'm repotting my other dappled willow, the Hakuro Nishiki willow. And the reason is because I cut that one back so severely. I want it to get its first flush before I try to repot it. I don't want to stress top and bottom. So I'm gonna let that get some actual foliage on it and go from there. So something really interesting, I'm actually finding little pieces of like, not bonsai soil, but very granular soil down near the bottom of this. And I think that's really a good sign. But it's not a good sign for time because it means I might have better roots down below this point where it swells because I want to find the bottom of this thing. I think if you've already watched this far, you can kind of look at it and tell this branch has got to go. There's not much to it. It doesn't have particularly attractive internodes, and it doesn't really have a good movement. It's kind of, it's right there. I don't know if I'll cut it back to a stub and let it regrow, or if I'm going to remove it entirely, but I think it's going to be removed entirely. I don't think it's got any value in the shape it is now. It doesn't have much taper. It crosses the main trunk line here, which I think has really good taper, and pretty good movement in it. That's what drew me to this tree, is the movement on that main trunk line. It's just awesome. That, and it's a good looking, healthy tree, as far as I can tell. If this is a male, I probably should have grabbed a female and vice versa. But again, I'm not really worried about getting fruit out of it. This is for me to enjoy the appearance of it instead. And I enjoy it, I will, as long as it doesn't die. Even if it does die, it'll look good, but it'll be very dead. All right, we're getting there, kids. Almost there. Yeah. Well, if Tom from Growing Clip Bonsai from Seniors is, watching, listening to this, you don't necessarily have to be watching to hear this part. I want to ask you, your permission. I'm kind of going to steal your idea for my community here, with having a cup of tea and listening to the old radio, listening to old comedies and stuff. I don't remember which night it is, but every time you say something like, "Oh, it's comedy night, it's family night," I'm like, I should do that too. So I was going to download some old radio programs, like Dick Tracy and the Green Hornet and Sherlock Holmes, all those old 1930s, 1940s, Amos and Andy, I think it is. Yeah, Amos and Andy. There's so many cool radio programs from back then. I'm going to try to find some versions that are, corrected. So if kiddos are walking by, they don't hear things out of context. But I think I'm going to do a radio night on Tuesdays for my local community. Just get a whole bunch of tea, take it up there, have everyone sit around, drink tea, and listen to old radio, just like like how people would have in the 30s. Everyone crowded around, sitting in comfy chairs, almost the way that people now look at TV, like going to a movie theater and all that. TV wasn't as big for the average person in the 30s, the Great Depression, but it was the golden age of radio. So a lot of people had radio. My own great grandfather, biological great grandfather, although my grandfather didn't live with them his whole life, he did live with them for a little bit, and they lived on a little farm. They didn't have a whole lot of money, but he built a windmill so he could power radio so they could have radio during the Depression, during the 1930s. So that's really cool. My grandfather was born in 1933, so he turned 90 this past Saturday on the 25th of February. So he didn't get to do a whole lot of Depression era stuff with them because, of course, 1930s had to end. But yeah, I was thinking about that, and Tom, you just gave me the idea, like, it's really great to have a kind of like a comedy night, a radio night, a dancing night, family night, things like that. So we're going to try to do that around here with your permission. I hope that's okay with you. I'm kind of taking the idea from you, taking a lot of ideas from a lot of people, but out of courtesy, that one's pretty good, and I haven't really heard it approached the way that you seem to have enthusiasm for it. So if it weren't for you talking about it, I wouldn't even consider it. Yeah, so we're getting there. There's a lot going on in here. I still can't tell if this trunk continues. It really has a lot of roots, which is good. But I want to know where they stop coming off of a thick trunk so that I can really get after this. Yeah, it's got to be like pumice and lava rock and stuff in here. That's got to be what this is. It's real granular. And yes, I have abandoned my skewer. I'm just in here because the roots are so tangled. I'm trying to figure out where they come from and where they go, and try to feel, if I can, if there's a trunk in here I need to preserve. Not that I don't like that up there, but if that's not the thickest part of this tree, I need to make sure I'm, paying respect to the whole thing. If this tree worked that hard to grow a thicker trunk than that, a better root swell than that, then by golly, I'm going to try to use it. So yeah, we're trying to figure that out. It's a little funny because the times were different. Things people would say back then may not have been considered in poor taste or considered in really bad taste. There's different times in the world, especially here in the U.S. Very different. Different 20 years ago even. We're trying to find some programs that are either cleaned up some of those words that you don't want children to walk by and hear out of context, or they don't have those words or those concepts being discussed to create issues that parents will have to deal with once they get home. Not that kids shouldn't know what those times were like, but I think that's very important not to do that out of context. So if we're going to be in the lobby of a building where there's people passing through, going to their homes, going to the gym, we're next to a big, not big, but a baby grand player piano, and got a shuffleboard table there, TV, bunch of dogs, bunch of people hanging out. I do not want that to be, soiled, pun intended, by some, out of context information that maybe should have been supported better with history before they heard certain terms. Kids will repeat anything. They'll take it to school. You don't want someone taking a lot of the things they would say back then about women, about other men, about people that didn't look like them or didn't act like them or didn't practice their religion, or had different thoughts about the weather, and all kinds of different thoughts back then. Everyone had an opinion, but they weren't really good at developing those opinions into free speech. It was a protected right, still is, but I hope in most of the world, not just the United States, but they weren't really good at taking opinions from a very young, uh, underdeveloped culture, making it free speech without hurting somebody's feelings or making someone feel bad or, trying to do so even. So I don't want kids to take things to school and repeat it and do the same thing now. That would be my fault for being negligent there. All right. Sorry, guys, but we're probably going to cut out a lot of this if I can figure out how to do cuts and all that. I'm probably just going to, air this maybe later as a little bit of a talking episode. That's what I want to do. Root untangling chats with Taco. That'll be a whole, not a season, but a whole playlist, just me talking while I'm untangling roots. And forgive me, anybody who disagrees with me. I think those old radio shows are great. I think they're a lot of fun to listen to, but sometimes you do hear things and you're like, well, that wouldn't go over today. And there's a reason for it. Some of the things they say and do aren't right. They weren't right back then. I think about all the growing up we've done in the last 100 years. It's done good. There's people who are too sensitive who think you should never listen to those again, that we should just erase all the past that isn't positive, and that's, I don't think that's the best way to go. I think we should understand what our mistakes were so we don't make them again. I certainly don't think that airing those mistakes, I should say addressing those mistakes in every circumstance is really fair to parents and their children too. Parents deserve to explain some things to their kids. Teachers deserve the attention of children in the classroom in a positive way. Some things parents just have to teach. All right. This is an absurdly strange root base. This one may end up in the old chop. It's just like a knot, a mass of roots down here. It doesn't seem to have any yield. It's very strange. Where are we at here? 22 minutes. It's not too long yet. We'll see. You can all tell. I'm trying to be patient with it, but it's not always easy to be patient with root balls like this. These are, oof. Yeah. Well, it's out here on the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic, East Coast. Of course, there's only one of those. The Atlantic has two sides. There's an East and a West Coast, but Mid-Atlantic, East Coast of the United States. It's like 65 degrees outside, but there's a cold front rolling in, so we're gonna get rain tomorrow. It's already cooling down, but it was like 30 degrees, something like that, yesterday morning. That's Fahrenheit, and this morning it was only about 47 Fahrenheit, so a little bit warmer. It sprinkled a little bit this morning, which was good for me, good for all my plants that are outside, good for this plant because I hadn't yet picked it up. It'll be the last of the cold weather, and even on those days where it's cold in the morning, it's going to be pretty warm during the day. Even tomorrow, where it's supposed to rain and be gross, I think it's going to be another high of 47 degrees Fahrenheit, so just below 10 degrees centigrade, probably like 80, I think 8 degrees is what it is. Yeah, so that'll be cool. All right, now I'm completely blown away by this thing. It's it's got so many ridiculous tangled dense roots, and not in a bad way. I'm just trying to make sure I don't cut anything out that needs to stay, or stuff like that. And this is just one big mass, and they're all tangled together. So the more I untangle it, the more I see. But geez, if they're not some of the most tangled roots on the planet, which just can't stay. You can't keep tangled roots like that. Yeah. All right. Ooh, we're getting there, though. We're getting there. I know you can't see as well as I can, but from here up, it feels like it's one big mass, and I don't want to remove trunk. I want to keep all the trunk I can, especially if it's good trunk. I just can't tell what's trunk and what's roots and what's, This one might be a good candidate for exposed roots. Wasn't my vision for it. How these roots appear to be, might be the way to go. I don't know if you can see, those are just knotted together roots. They're crazy. They're moving, but it's taking a lot of patience to get them to move. I'm really hoping I haven't flicked any dirt into my glass here, because that would not be beneficial for anybody. A lot of liquid down the drain that doesn't need to be thrown down the drain. Well, not directly anyways. Eventually it all goes down the drain. All right. Well, I think where I'm at here is I've got to decide, do I want to do exposed roots with all these? See, yeah, exposed roots with all these. That's a little better. It's one dense mass from here up, or do I want to go with a root plane like that? And I think I'm halfway in between the two. So I'm going to trim down some of these longer roots and see what I find. Just to have some sort of visibility in here is going to help me, I think. All right. So I don't think I want to do exposed roots. I'm going to be a little cautious here. Flip all this up, come back on this other side, and just pull some of this out of there. They aren't big roots, and since they're all knotted up, I don't think they're helping me. I think for the health of this tree, I've got to eliminate a lot of these. Otherwise, I'm going to end up killing it just from trying to stylistically go with something that's not quite right. I don't know if you can hear, but I'm going through a lot of small stuff, not a lot of big stuff. Which is not really good. Not a lot of soil in here either, which is not really good. See, I'm getting more flat, but it's just not appearing to have any space. So this one I think is going to end up being just a regular old root ball. Yeah. Yeah. We're getting there. Besides, it'll grow better from all these trimmed down flat ends. There's some nice roots headed down, I think. So I hope I'm doing the right thing by it. Hopefully I haven't taken too long at this and I don't have to cut it all out so you guys can, you know, get some sleep rather than listening to me talk and cut itty bitty roots out of here. So we're getting somewhere. Getting somewhere. A lot of roots, but we're getting somewhere. Again, I don't know if you can see, but just, oops, kick the dog water. Just like that. Those are nice. So I'm going to come a little farther up on this back side here. I don't think I need an angle like that. I'm going to cut some of these more out. It's a little better. I mean, it's an absurd amount of good roots. Not all of them are good, but it's an absurd amount of good roots. And I'm going to have to cut it back to a certain length anyways to make it usable. Yeah, I think I've still got to take some more out of here. Better? Yeah, it's a little better. I don't know if you can see, but it's just kind of a mess under here. Just kind of a mess. I think Now I've got all this off. Bear with me. And empty out my bin into the trash here. It doesn't stand under its own power, but that's all right. Didn't expect it to. But I think with already having the girth that it does, I think it might be almost ready to go right into a bonsai container. Let's scoot in. Yeah. Focus. Yeah, a little bit more with the skewer here, and I think I'll be ready to do something. It does what I need to do. Let's get under here and start attacking those bigger roots. And I might still have to trim some more off the bottom of this to get this to, be more radial. All this soil is going to come out. It's going to cause rot, I think. I want to have nice draining soil on every bit of the plant, so. I know I'm holding it too high. Sorry, guys. Getting there, little by little. A lot more visible than it was before, so that's good. Now, this bigger root I'm looking at here might be a little too high up. That's okay. Means I can get rid of it, have finer roots. The rest of these are kind of finer anyways, a lot lower down. Again, this is mostly going to be about getting these roots under control, not necessarily top pruning. So I do want to make sure I do a good job, even if I cut a couple corners here. So, it doesn't stand up on its own, but I think it's got pretty nice radial roots. I'm going to do a real quick trim. My scissors. To out, wrong way. Something bigger than that. To get rid of a couple issues. This right here, it's heading in a funny direction. That's going to come off. Let's see here. Headed straight up, maybe. That was kind of headed straight up, so we're going to do that one. Same thing here. It's kind of heading in a funny direction. The roots underneath of it, these are actually really nice roots right here. This is okay. This is okay. The rest of this is all right. It's not bad as far as direction and all that. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm gonna take some of the length out. Taking out some of these roots that hang down too far. Like these, they're thicker and they turn down there. Ugh. They're so bendy, they don't want to cut right. I think it turns down. I think I got pretty lucky so far in this one. Probably do some more underneath with getting rid of these stubs. So I'm going to. See, like this, it comes down and goes back up. Not what we want. cutting off any of these top ones here. Those are underneath, they go up. These are underneath. Will not be visible anyways, so he's keeping them. There we go. Now we're at the bottom of the tree. See that? That's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted. Much better. This is one of those cases where I could have just cut the top couple inches off of this soil after uncovering this this little bit of flare here. I've been fine. Did I? No. That's okay too. All right. That's a much more flat. Look at that. That is fantastic. I think you guys are probably going to be seeing this for the first time. No funny business in there, just you get to see this. So this is a nice root base. There's two things that stick out to me on this tree. I'm going to do a little bit of pruning before I put it into a pot. First one being this branch right here. Sticks out at a funny angle. Doesn't have any taper to it. What I'll do is I'll pick a front. So I think my front's going to be probably right about there. And in the case of that, I don't know if you can tell, of course it's shaking a little bit. If my front is there, not only is this back branch here not doing very much for me, but it kind of crosses, runs up behind. It's got a weird angle to it. So I am just going to straight up remove it. And I think the tree will be better for it. I am going to give it a real nice flush cut. And the reason for that is this kiwi likes to heal with really big knobs. All right, so that's something. Again, my leader being this one here. I don't really have much competing for that leader. I don't want to do too much trimming on this. I want to keep some of its vigor. I will keep this lowest branch here to feed the rest of this tree with nutrients. I am concerned with up here it getting too thick. I see another branch I don't really want this high up. It's too thick. That's going to come off too. Just another little baby branch. Looking at the way my plant goes here, I've got two options I can use. This is the new leader. It's kind of straight. Or I can use this and have it come up like that. Not really sure which one I'm going to do yet, but that doesn't need to be there either way. I might choose a different leader on this tree eventually. It's not a bad looking tree. It's a little funny, but it's not bad. I know the stuff down here is too low, but again, it's too low. Just got to come off. That was too low, and I think this one is too. So, yeah, that's a little better. I like this branch here. It's almost turned into a semi-cascade, except that this isn't the leader. These are branches. This one's a little too close to the base, so we're gonna take that one off. It's broken, so I can trim that back. You sort of change direction in a funny way. I'm gonna just eliminate that. This one too. Although these kind of run parallel to each other. The question is, which one's better? This one down below has better ramification. So rather than having two parallel, I'll turn it to one. I think that's my best root base there. You're looking at it. So I'm looking at it from there, and I know I've got to get this into a pot. It's okay. It's nice and damp. It's not in any danger. I actually kind of like this one, even though it's kind of an eye poker. All this in here, though, it may not be necessary, this guy. or it may be very necessary. I might remove all this and keep that. I do like this one here. I like this one. I like this one in the back. It adds some depth. This is my leader coming up here. I think this one's confusing, considering that's the leader. It's almost the same length. So again, for something so high up in the tree, I'm going to take it back first. See how it grows. A little more tilt. You can see a little better up in the top there in the apex. These do start to cross. That is okay, because this one's really long. I'm going to take it off of the vertical facing. I'm not sure that this one will make it anyways, so, you know, you work with what you got. This is a dead stub. Dead stub. This is dead on here. This is dead. I think that's all my dead stubs. Right here. Right here. Fairly certain that this right here is dead, so I'm going to take it off too. All right. I think that's a good start. I'm going to pot this up. Let's see. It has red fruit. I wish I had a red container, but I don't. I think I'm going to make a mistake here. Well, not a mistake, but maybe a rash decision. I'm going to use this guy. It's a little big, bigger than I would want, but I think that'll look okay. I think that complements the color of the bark with the cherries. It'll look really good. So I'm going to go with that one. First and foremost, I need my screen. And thank you to anybody who stuck around this long. Probably boring the hell out of you, but sometimes bonsai isn't quite as exciting. I think it is, but not everyone does. All right. I'm going to put a rather large screen in this one. Does not have tie down holes, but I was not intending to tie it down anyways, so anyone watching, sorry, we're not doing any tying down. I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean on the inside. I'm going to remove this and use just my turntable for the repot. It's a lot easier to do so. Yeah, I like doing treatment at all. Nice, nice, nice. I like that. Get that out of the way. Grab myself. Again, no one's paying me to say this, but I really like this Hoffman's Bonsai Solo Mix. Easy to open. I always tear those, they get messed up. Resealable. I'm gonna grab my scoops here. And once I've got some soil on the bottom of this, pull the screen in, get all mounted up. I'm going to give this guy a little rinse because I think it needs it. Now you can hear me. You can't see me, but you can hear me. I'm going to rinse this in the other room. I just do it in the bathtub. Are there better ways and better places? Absolutely. But this one works okay for me. Actually, I'm glad I rinsed a little bit because I may be showing off this big root. And I know you can't see what I'm seeing, but I can see quite a bit more than I could a couple minutes ago, so that's good too. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's very telling. I'm glad I did this. All right, coming back with it. So first and foremost, it's actually got really great bark texture. And I was talking about this big root here. Now it might be too tall, sorry, too far up. I think that's the case. This is bark coming off. It's okay. It's really cool bark, but there's other roots under there. So I'm going to make the decision. Use the better roots. See, those are much better. All right, now we're ready to pot this guy up. This is going to be a nice, easy repot too. Yeah. I know there's so many different companies that make bonsai soil and all that. I know I'm using an old seashell as a scoop. I actually find that I really like it. I probably spend too much on this again, this Hoffman mix, but I think it's just got really good composition. I've had extremely good experiences with it. So let's kind of film the whole thing. Do a little dance with the skewer. Yeah, I think this video is already too long. 45 minutes. Oh my gosh. A little bit of pruning, which is good. A little bit of root pruning, a lot of root pruning. Again, I'm glad I went ahead and did it. Found out a lot about this tree, about its roots. It's got beautiful everything on it. Love this tree right now. Let's see here. Where are we at? It's maybe a little less upright than I would like it. I might change that planting angle in the future. But right now, I don't mind it. Grab my scissors, reach across the camera. Thanks for looking at my armpit there, everybody. Take off all these little baby roots that are sticking up. These are just the ends of the ones I buried that didn't make it under, so cutting them off isn't going to hurt the tree. Leaving them on, uncovered, will. So, I have another one here. Is this a... Yep, cut that off too. All right. That's nicely tucked in. I got nice dirty fingernails. Just the way I like. Let's see, where'd that big root come off? It was over there. Yeah, so where that big root came off. It will grow new roots there. It's just fine that I had to remove it. That happens. Oop. It's sticking up too much. So I'm going to cut it short and tuck it down in there. Nothing wrong with just double checking all that stuff. Not the easiest thing to tuck back in, but I'm going to make it work. So to tuck roots back in, I typically shove them into the skewer that's blunt. Works all right. All right, it's a little better. All right, time to put some lipstick on this pig. The lipstick's getting kind of worn in. I want to say that Gail posed a great question, Gail from GG Bonsai. If you could use lip balm. From what I have read and find out, not only can you use it, it's probably even better than lipstick. It may not be as permanent, but all those things like aloe that it's got in it to help heal stuff up are good for trees as well. But yeah, I'm going to probably try that after this runs out. This will use it up pretty quick the way that I use it. I'm not quite as stable as I wanted to be in here. I'm going to have to get back after that. Cut off there. All right. Yeah, not my finest work. Not my worst either. I think I got all the wounds sealed. Get back in here with this. This one may not have a whole lot pot belly to it, but I think that this particular pot doesn't tend to fill in these edges very well underneath the lip. So there we are. That is our hardy prolific kiwi. And as much as it wasn't very exciting to look at, let's see if I can get a little farther out, give you guys a better view. That's all right. A little low. Come up to there. Yeah, there we go. Or a little crooked too. Good, as long as it's crooked. So that's it. Yeah, it's a nice little tree. I know it's off-center, the video, but I like it. Hopefully I can do my cuts well and you guys don't have to just sit here and scream at me for talking too much. I can see already how things will change, but right now it's in a pot. It looks good. I'm going to water it down and get this thing growing. Comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching today. Have a great night.